Thank you for joining us for our 7th class on Jewish philosophy here on eyeshiva.com, formerly radiotorah.com, which is still available, but just for our 24-hour Torah radio station. My name is Meza, and I'll be teaching you tonight. We're still in the book, The 9 Questions People Ask About Judaism by Dennis Prager and Rabbi Joseph Tolushkin. We left off last week on page 60, I'm sorry. We probably have some new viewers this week, so many people are wondering why I teach this book instead of another, and it's not because I'm a chassid of Rabbi Joseph Tolushkin or Dennis Prager. The reason I teach this book, it's because it makes sense. Not that I agree with every word that's in it, but most of it I do, and that's pretty much it. Also, if you notice people writing negative things in the chat area, don't argue with them, just ignore them. Also, after this class at 9 o'clock, don't forget Rabbi Kolakowski's class on Hasidus. And I'll start. Okay, we're on page 60, around 12 lines from the top, right? It says, hold on, you guys see me okay? Right, okay, good. It says the Jewish ideal is not that we not kill for food. Its compromise, known as kashrut, places a strict limit on the number of animal species which a Jew may kill to eat, and legislates a uniquely humane manner in which to kill the permitted animals. The Jewish people is not permitted to kill every animal its members want to eat. This is one reason why the Torah mentions the word holy every time it mentions kashrus. The animals that are permitted or kosher to Jews to eat are identified by certain characteristics. A land animal must chew its cud and have a split hoof. A fish must both have fins and scales, and a bird must not be a bird of prey. Since these characteristics alone determine which animals are kosher, one cannot speak of a Jewish taboo on pigs or any other particular animal. Pig is unkosher solely because it does not chew its cud, not because it's dirty or for any other reason. To underscore this point, a medieval commentator on the Torah, the Or HaChaim, wrote that the pig's name, Chazer, is because one day God will return to the pig what is permitted, or what it's missing. The idea that it doesn't chew its cud. He commented on this on Leviticus 11:14. But why these particular characteristics? Why couldn't it as easily have been the other way around? The answer may be given in the form of another question. If the characteristics of the kosher animal were reversed or altogether different, would we not ask the same question? Why land animals must chew their cud and have split hoofs is a fascinating question, but it's irrelevant to kashrut's moral purpose of limiting our killing and eating of animals. It is analogous to asking why red lights signify stop and green lights mean go. There may be a psychological or other reasons for the choice of these colors, but they are irrelevant to the primary purpose of traffic lights, which is to guide traffic. Red and green may have been selected arbitrarily. Similarly, the signs of kosher may be regarded as having been arbitrarily selected. Whether or not there are reasons for these signs no more determines the need for the system of kashrus than whether or not there are reasons for green and red determines the need for traffic signals. Given Judaism's goal of limiting the number of animals Jews could kill to eat, some signs delineating kosher and non-permitted animals had to be selected. The next step in Judaism's moral concern about eating animals was the requirement that the killing of the kosher animal be as painless and humane as possible. The moral premise behind the Jewish slaughtering regulations is that any wounded animal is automatically not kosher. This legislation ensured that animals be killed as quickly and painlessly as possible with one cut. In addition, the shochet, the slaughterer, could not be just any Jew. He had to be particularly pious and educated, since such a person would presumably be the most careful to minimize the animal's suffering. And an animal slaughtered with a dull, blunted knife is not kosher. Thus, the laws that put half of the animal world off limits to Jewish tables, in conjunction with the myriad laws ensuring humane slaughter of the permitted, half make up the systematic ethics of Judaism with regard to food. In addition, Jewish dietary law demands that we not eat milk or milk products and meat together, based upon the thrice mentioned biblical law. Do not seethe a kid in its mother's milk. The oral legal tradition prohibited the eating of milk and meat together. Now, there's an idea here that's really deep that I really want to talk about, and I was going to make a video about it once, but I guess I'll make that video. Here the authors are basically posing the question, which is an interesting question. Do we keep God's law because they ultimately make sense, or because God said so? Actually, the firmer or more religious the Jew, the more likely you're to hear that it's because he said so, unfortunately. Which I'm not saying I disagree with completely, but for some reason that answer alone doesn't satisfy me. I don't know about you. For those of you who came out of a religion like Christianity or some other religion, I'm sure that you would agree that you would never have come out if you held that principle to be true. The idea of don't know, just is, right? Because like I said, if you were a former Christian and you would have questioned one of your teachers, right? You would have said, why is this? He would tell you, well, it says it right here in the New Testament that JC was crucified for your sins, and only through believing in him are you saved. And if you would say anything else, he would say the devil's a liar. Well, that sounds very convincing. No, friends, none of you would have left Islam or Christianity for Judaism if you would have believed that. Blind faith, because that's what it is. And no, it's not enough to just believe that. But you'll be surprised to know that there's a place for it in Judaism, but we'll discuss that later on. But actually, this is where the relationship with God comes into play. Relationship with God, I'm sure many Jews are scratching their heads. That's not a Jewish term, that's a Christian term. We have to understand one thing. Only because Christians or Muslims or Buddhists happen to believe in a certain concept, that doesn't mean that Jews are not allowed to believe in it. Because ultimately, what's true is divinely inspired. And if they hold any truth, it's because they ultimately extracted from Torah in some way. Hold on, I lost my train of thought here. But only actually when we begin investigating the God of Israel and his Torah or instructions and begin comparing them to everything else we may have known till then, are we able to truly trust in God and take that first step into, ultimately, it's hard to understand the highest level, which is doing things just because God said so. But I'll explain this a little further. This is only you're not able to truly even get to the first level until you first meet people just like you who've had their lives transformed by the God of Israel. Till it becomes real to you. Then you begin to ponder the idea of perhaps letting him in. We see that even in what the book we're reading in the Chumash now, that we see that Hakadosh Baruch Hu didn't just expect the Jews of Egypt to trust him blindly, but rather he found it appropriate to wow them with miracles, or in other words, with acts of love, to build that initial bond. He brought the mightiest kingdom of the day to its knees. For what? For a bunch of uneducated slaves. That's why it tells us over and over again, even in this week's Parsha, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. Reminding us that he loved us first. That's why during the Pesach Seder we say, Dayenu, because that would have been enough. That's why a Jew has no excuse not to reach out to God, because he first ultimately reached out to us. That's the world God made. And why did he make it like this? Because anything else would be trampling on our free will. That's why it says in Tanchuma Lech Lecha that Reish Lechi says that a convert is dearer to Hashem than a born Jew. And it goes on to say that this is because the Jew, or either his descendants, stood on Mount Sinai and experienced the wonders performed for them by the Almighty, and thus believed. But the convert saw none of this, and he still believes. Just like our father Abraham, who was able to do so much with so little. He saw no great miracles. When he crossed the river, it didn't split, but he still believed and obeyed. You and I know people like this in life, who do so much with so little. Pagan gods were followed and served not because of love or trust, but only because of fear. Right? Fear me because I could destroy you. I am God and you are nothing. Now, obviously that's true. God is everything and we're lesser beings. But that's not what God wants us to base our servitude on. That's what makes our true God different from all other false gods. The difference is that he came down to us. Not how Christians teach that Chas v'shalom, he became a man, but he cared for us so much that he gave us a purposeful standard to live by that does change lives and ultimately bring us, his creation, the most happiness. So in other words, only when someone has built that relationship, or in other words, that trust with the Almighty, can someone keep or believe in God's law because he said so. That's actually the next video I'm working on, now that I think about it. A video on the oral law. What is the oral law? And what are we expected to follow and consider divinely inspired? Because this is actually one of the main reasons people cringe when they hear about rabbinic Judaism. Right? That every word that the rabbis brought down in the Talmud we're supposed to consider like it's spoken by God. People erroneously believe this. Not at all. Not at all, my friends. And that even goes for Das Torah today. Only because the rabbi says it, do I have to do it? You got the wrong guy for that. I'm making that video based on the Rambam's principles of understanding oral law. But again, don't get me wrong. I also say that I keep Torah because God says so. If what I said already wasn't clear. But only because I know and trust God first. Just like the Jews knew and trusted him after he took them out of Egypt. Why didn't you think God didn't curse the Jews while still in Egypt when they rebelled and didn't listen to Moshe Rabbeinu? Why didn't he just wipe them out? Because, my friends, our God has common sense. Newsflash for some people. And ultimately, it would have been barbaric for God to expect anything from Israel if Israel didn't know who he was and if Israel didn't know that he cared for them. And this is so true that this is actually how the Almighty operates today. Like I said in my video, What is a Jew? That he relates to us only on how we relate to him. If we know nothing about him, he doesn't judge us the same way as if someone who has that knowledge and that relationship, because more is required of them. That really sums up why Jews are judged different from non-Jews. But a Jew who knows nothing of God, the rabbis call him a tinok shenishba. People who have a status of kidnapped children, who religiously don't know any better. Actually, the biggest issue I have with this concept is that the rabbis keep lowering the bar of who's eligible for the status. Why? Because now most of the rabbis have included all secular Jews in this category, which really ultimately hurt the emunah. But the reason the rabbis lowered the bar is because someone who is a Jew, or in other words, knows better and still profanes the divine, is actually supposed to be shunned by the Jewish community. So in an attempt to grow Judaism, they have opened the floodgates, right? I actually teach the opposite, that actually 90% of secular Jews today don't qualify to be a Tinok Shenishba because they know too much. Friends, nowadays, it's really hard for anyone to have any excuse not to live religiously and morally. Like I said many times before, that it's better in God's opinion that a secular Jew become a moral Christian or a moral Muslim than to remain an atheistical and most likely immoral Jew. Why? Because the rabbis bring down that kafira is worse than avodah zarah. And this is actually a good reason for arguing why a Noahide should remain a Noahide if he knows Judaism and Torah to be true. That idea is preposterous. Because who are you fooling, right? You actually think that if you don't formally take upon yourself certain laws, you're not bound to them? Friends, if you have come to the realization that those laws are true, that's impossible. Right, friends? Why? Because when you come to that realization that something is divinely inspired, you have no choice but to be judged against it. That's why halacha tells us that the way we treat someone who comes to convert, we tell him, first, some of the light mitzvahs, and then some of the heavier ones. Why? So they can first engage intellectually enough to be able to formally take upon themselves the whole Torah, even without knowing what they're getting into. So you ask, how can one convert even be expected to keep all of Torah when he doesn't know what's expected of him? Easily. I mean, they know enough to make them liable and learn the rest on their way. So, in other words, after their conversion, if they fail to keep a mitzvah they didn't know about, do you think God will punish them for that? Of course not, because he didn't know. It is knowledge that convicts you. It's not your title. And that's why Jews today are suffering. Why? Because they've outlawed conversions in about 90% of the world. Why is that so horrible? Because you have people who know that Torah is true, who know that they should be davening with a minyan, but aren't led into a synagogue, who know that they should be keeping kosher, but aren't led into the kosher markets. People know that they should be learning Torah, but have no one to teach them. Why? Again, because the Jewish community has shut their doors to them. It's disgusting, huh? Friends, this is all common sense. And every Jew who can't put this together is a fool. And worse than a fool, an insular ethnocentrist. That's why people actually hate what I do. Because I have no agenda but emes, truth. In my articles, I never write a paper or make a video without giving sources for everything. How many rabbis do you know do the same thing? Well, I'll tell you, not too many. That's why it hurts so much what I say. Because they can't write me off, because it's not me speaking. But I speak through Torah and the words of Chazal. As a matter of fact, my enemies have had a field day with me this week. I'm not sure if you were familiar with the article they wrote about me. It actually came out on the front page of the Richmond paper here. And, just to clear up any issue. The video wasn't made to make any political statement. This is just who I am. I like guns. I smoke cigars. I like masculine things. And it wasn't me bringing a gun into a synagogue, because it wasn't a synagogue. It was actually my friend's house. We put synagogue because we were davening there. But obviously, I wouldn't bring an assault rifle into an actual shul. But anyways, everyone clearly overreacted, and this is just a sign how the kiruv process has really let us down nowadays, because they bring people to Yiddishkeit just by changing the way they behave and not changing the way they think. So what does that mean? You have a lot of religious Jews walking around who look from, right? They got the payas, they got the beard, they got a reckle on. They think like a bunch of anti-gun liberals. That's just a reality that all you who are converting to Judaism will have to deal with. But the main reason that many of my enemies have had a field day with me this week is because they found out that I'm a convert to Judaism. And worse than a convert to Judaism, that I used to be a Baptist minister. Right? The garbage I've received by emails, I'm telling you. People who now suddenly say that I'm not Jewish and I'm actually a Christian, all because they found out that I'm a convert. It's disgusting. Right? Anyways. I would appreciate it more if people would just debate my ideas and my teachings instead of just slandering me, right? I'm a Christian and I'm a convert. When I made Aliyah, I was a rabbi at Hebrew University. Whatever, they overlook all this. Right? And people are even saying now that I'm not even a rabbi. Friends, if you hear anyone say things like this, can you please tell them to bring proof? Right? Because anyone in the old city of Jerusalem, in Israel, they know me and they know my work there. Right? But I have these people want to take away my smicha just because I tell people what they don't want to hear. Especially the average Jew, right? The average Jew who thinks that every non-Jew is a Nazi. Well, I'm here to wake you up. They could be the biggest asset to Judaism. That's why they say I'm not a rabbi. And I'm not Jewish. It's silly, huh? But the times are changing, and if you think they hate me now, just wait till you have millions of non-Jews knocking on their synagogue's door, demanding to be Jewish, just because one rabbi told them they could. They hate me because I show them that they're not exclusively special for having a Jewish mother, that anyone could become a Jew also, right? I could take anyone. I could take a Hispanic guy from the worst neighborhood. Me, I'm Hispanic, right? Through Torah. It's all nurture and not nature. Just like Shemaiah and Naphtalian, who were honored more than the high priest. And about guns on Shabbos. In that video, I did nothing but state sources, and I was still attacked. It shows that these guys don't appreciate Torah. but they actually parade custom, and unfortunately, I mean, the customs of Jews today are not customs of our great Gedolim who aren't alive today. No, they're the customs of their secular Jewish grandparents, like who've instilled these ideas to trust in the protection of the government and the police, right? I mean, please, please wake up. You don't even know who you're talking to. I lived in the West Bank for 4 years before becoming an anti-Zionist. I've had friends that were murdered by Arabs, right? When I should rely on the secular government, and this meaning with the secular Israeli government, which might as well be a non-Jewish government. All right, but just wait till, God forbid, another attack, and they'll see that maybe having a gun would have been a good thing. God forbid. And even the video I did about converting yourself to Judaism, the video that I quoted the most sources, and they still didn't quit. And do you know why I made that video? Apart from being an area of halacha that everyone really should brush up on, like I said before, I made this video because the rabbis have outlawed conversions in 90% of the world. Like I said before, you have thousands of committed individuals who want to be Jewish but can't. Does that make sense to you? Why did they do this? Well, I'll explain, because no other rabbi has. Because since the founding of the secular state of Israel, converting to Judaism has become more of a political move than a religious one. So what happens is if you have a lot of people converting from places like India and South America, places from these developing third world countries, that means that you have more, most likely non-white religious individuals immigrating to the state of Israel, which the government there can't stand for some reason. So their decision was to simply outlaw conversions. Now, do you understand where the rabbis today have missed the mark? Obviously, what would benefit the state of Israel nowadays is to have more from Jews with a purpose of being a light into the nations, not just more from Jews who are there to hide in a bubble. Why? Because becoming a Jew, according to Torah, has to do with keeping Torah. But not anymore. Now it's all political. Now it's all about eating falafel and serving in the IDF. That's why the existence nowadays of a secular state of Israel negates the whole purpose of being Jewish in the first place. Why? Because it's our job to be in the world, to be a light into the nations. Not to hide in a secular bubble where actually the vast majority of Jews go off. Right? I could hear it posted already. Asher Meza says the rabbis in the Israeli rabbinate are wrong. Well, on this issue, you're damn right they're wrong. Not only are they wrong, they desecrate Torah for political reasons. So let them write what they want, because they can't hurt what I do. Because I only do this for those who want to listen. Anyways, reading on here. Okay. The intent of the original Torah law is obviously ethical. But what is the reason for separating milk and meat as a general rule? 1 second here. See if my internet got cut off. Okay, it's fine. The concept is directly related to Judaism's obsession with separating death from life. Judaism is uniquely preoccupied with this life. In ancient Egypt, out of which Judaism arose, the culture revolved around death. Its Bible was the book of the dead, and its priests were concerned with the dead. Apparently, this is why a Cohen, a Jewish priest, cannot come into contact with a dead body. He must concern himself only with life. Judaism asks us to separate meat, death, from milk, life. One proof of this explanation is that only milk-producing animals may not be eaten with milk. We are also allowed to eat fish and milk together because fish do not produce milk. Now, there's an asterisk here talking about why we can't eat chicken, but I'm not going to even mention it because chicken obviously doesn't produce milk. Milk does not represent life with regard to fish, as it does with regard to mammals. Kashrus, like all Jewish laws, also serves the crucial purpose of strengthening each Jew's self-control. In a famous passage in Midrash Tanhuma Shmini, written about 1,500 years ago, Rav states that the mitzvahs, commandments in the instance of kashrus, were given solely in order to train people. For what does it matter to the Blessed Holy One about the purity or impurity of the animals if we eat? Animals we eat. It is clear then that the mitzvahs were given solely for the purpose of training people. The question is often posed, is kashrus really related to ethics or holiness? After all, it's not what goes into a man's mouth, but what comes out of it, echoing what Jesus said. I don't know why he said that. We would answer, every time a Jew sits down to eat a kosher meal, he or she is reminded that the animal being eaten is a creature of God. That the death of such a creature cannot be taken lightly. That hunting for sport is forbidden. That we cannot treat any living thing irresponsibly. And that we are responsible for what happens to other beings, human and animal, even if we did not personally come into contact with them. As an example of the later concern, a Boston rabbinic court declared grapes picked by oppressed Chicanos non-kosher. And perhaps we may similarly declare the skins of baby seals that were clubbed to death non-kosher to be worn. Richard Israel has noted the observance of kashrus, is an example of an annoying series of mitzvahs which I am glad not to have dropped because of some of the rather important surprises it has to offer. Because it is a public observance, I have to justify it rather frequently to my friends and certainly to myself. I find that whether I like it or not, kashrus brings me into contact with a series of rather important questions. What is my responsibility to the calf that I eat? Is the earth and the fullness thereof mine to do with as I will? What does it mean that a table should be an altar? Is eating indeed a devotional act? If kashrus makes me ask any questions or makes me ask enough questions often enough, I discover that its very provocative quality is one of its chief virtues for my religious life. And this is the end of the chapter, or actually of the second question. And I think I'm just going to stop here tonight before we get into the second question. I mean, I'm going to try to I'm going to try to answer a couple of questions here in the chat room. Let's see. Chat room. Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, about us creating a new Judaism. I'm completely against that. I mean, I'm for repairing Judaism. And that's what I teach. I mean, I teach that the Judaism, or I believe that the Judaism that I teach in my videos is authentic Judaism, with the same Judaisms that were taught before the level of persecution has actually changed the way Jews think. I mean, I tell people, how can they compare a David Melech, a Bar Kokhba, a Yehuda Maccabee to what people who call themselves Jews nowadays? People are so anti-gun. It's completely ridiculous. So no, this is not a new Judaism, but rather true Judaism. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's one comment, right, from Paula. I guess it's disgusting what I'm saying, and it's Lashon Hara. Fine. So obviously they're not Jews. I'm not sure when she said this. I'm sure she was probably talking about. Well, I'm not sure if I mentioned anything about Jews not being Jews. Although I've said it in my other videos that I mean, it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch that someone who's Machal Shabbos, who breaks Shabbos, is not only not a Jew, but he's worse than a non-Jew. That doesn't mean that he is a non-Jew. I mean, he's still judged like a Jew, but just like the Magen Avraham says, that why do we say Shelo Asani Goy and stay like instead of saying Asani Yehudi? Why? Because no one is made a Jew, but becomes a Jew. So if you don't keep Shabbos and you know better, you're definitely not a Jew. But you're not a non-Jew either. Why? Because you're going to be judged like a Jew. Okay, next. Most people don't know what Judaism is. Once you are not, you won't. All right, here it says that once Rabbi Kalikowski and I have a lot of followers, we won't care about what other Jews think. I said it many times before that the purpose of being Jewish is not being alone, is not being secluded or starting your own synagogue. The reason we started our own synagogue is because they basically kicked us out of the synagogues in the community. No, my friends, the purpose of being Jewish and actually repairing the world is a team effort. It's something you can't do alone. So, as a matter of fact, in my videos, I never say apply for conversion to my website. I tell people, if you're interested in converting to Judaism or returning to Judaism, go to your local Orthodox synagogue. And as you know, Rabbi Kalikowski and I, we open the door to all Jews and all non-Jews. We don't discriminate. We tell them the truth, though. That shows the difference with synagogues in Richmond that clearly just kick people out because they don't agree with the way they think. But we'll never start our own movement and just do our own thing. Religious Jews are actually a family. Let's see. Okay, Miss Paula here. Looks like she has a chip on her shoulder. Okay. If you have any questions, just ask them. I'm just going down the line here. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess no one. Oh, wait a minute. It seems like converts are treated unfairly. Converts are definitely treated unfairly. And I mean, don't forget the source I just quoted before, that God considers converts dearer than born Jews. I mean, that doesn't mean that that we're greater on earth than a born Jew, but it just says that it pleases God more for a convert to come to Judaism out of nowhere than for a secular Jew who knew the truth to return. For the reason I stated. That someone who wasn't liable became liable. What? Out of love, not out of obligation. It's really silly how many people classify keeping God's commandments nowadays. That we keep God's commandments because we're burdened with them. That's why, unfortunately, when people come to convert, rabbis tell them, what are you, crazy? You don't want this burden. It's disgusting. It's terrible being Jewish. And that's the main reason they turn Jews away. Not because it's That's the main reason they turn non-Jews away. Not because it's part of halacha. It's because they themselves don't like being Jewish. But if you love something, like it says, like the Rambam brings down, that the only way to truly fulfill the mitzvah of loving Hashem is by sharing Him with the rest of the world. Why doesn't anyone quote that? Why? Because they don't truly love God. Like Rav Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, they've made keeping mitzvahs into idolatry because they've made mitzvahs into their God. When our God is solely altruistic in nature, goodness, that's our religion. And I'm sorry if I sound like a reform rabbi or a preacher, I can't water down Judaism because that's what Judaism is. We can't separate keeping a mitzvah with the result that that mitzvah being kept has in the world. Why? Because keeping mitzvahs aren't an end unto themselves, but a means to a greater end, a means to repairing the world. And that's, for some reason, what Jews have a hard time understanding. It's like I'm speaking some other language to them. But it's funny, when I explain this to a Christian or to a Muslim, it makes perfect sense to them. Perhaps because they also had to come to religion. All right, so they came to Christianity, they came to Islam, but you know what? They would have came to Judaism if it was available. It's really a PR issue. And that's why Islam is the biggest or the fastest growing religion in America today. Not because they go door-to-door proselytizing, because they don't. But they advertise that they have a open door policy, which is just what I try to promote for Judaism. Because I also I also teach the 7 laws, but I just offer Judaism first and the 7 laws second. That's it. You're just like, if you cared for anybody, if you had a son who wanted to be a doctor or who wanted to enter the medical field, you're not going to tell him to be a nurse. You're going to tell him, no, my friend, strive to be a doctor. You can't be a doctor, fine, be a nurse. You can't be a nurse, be a, X-ray technician, right? But you don't offer X-ray technician first. No, we should offer that same relationship that we have with the Almighty to others, unless you don't have a relationship with the Almighty. And like I said, the mitzvahs have become your God, and you keep them out of superstition, instead out of what God has done for you and what you've seen those mitzvahs do in other people's lives. Do what? The life-changing power that's transmitted to us every time we connect via those 613 avenues with the Almighty, the all life-changing power that for some reasons I've heard Christians talk about, but I never hear Jews talk about. Why is it if I hear someone say, love God, relationship with God, that person automatically has to be a Christian? Well, I'm telling you, my friend, times are changing. And if I still have breath in my lungs, and if I could still sit here every week and make videos, we're going to repair this world. We're going to turn back the clock to true Judaism. And if it's truly from God, it'll be successful, and there's no point of you fighting against it. But, all right, I'm going to go just drink a cup of water or something. Please stay tuned for our next class. I'm going to see if maybe Rabbi Kolakowski could start it earlier because we have such a nice audience today. Here, don't mind me, I'm on the phone. Yeah, here, can you start earlier? Yeah, start earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and stop it, right, so I could record, and then, because I don't want to, lose this nice audience we have. Okay? No, I don't know. I'm a little exhausted. Okay, 5 minutes, you think? 5 minutes? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then you can go in. Alright, just give me 1 minute to say bye to people. Okay, the rabbi's going to go ahead and start his class a little early today. Right, and he's, I'm nothing compared to Rabbi Kolakowski. He's not only my friend, but my teacher. And, he could teach for hours and hours. And I'm new on this, even though I mean I went to yeshiva, I became a rabbi. I'm really nothing. I got smicha just so I could give these online classes, and whatever. But if for some reason, if you're stumbling suddenly across this video today, and I mean you're really in a crossroads of what religion to choose, or perhaps you come from a Jewish family, but Judaism never made sense to you, or religion in general never made sense to you because it wasn't presented properly. In other words, it was presented purposeless. Today, what I want to encourage you to give Torah another chance, to come back. And if you're not Jewish, to take that initial step and embark on an awesome journey. A journey where people can experience life to the fullest. And if you want to learn more about Judaism, you could visit bejewish.org. And if you want to return to Judaism or interested in converting to Judaism, again, go to your local Orthodox synagogue and tell the rabbi, I want to be Jewish or I want to return to Judaism. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in today. Please tune in next week. Don't forget we have a class Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and with Rabbi Kalikowski on the book To Be a Jew. And Rebbetzin Kalikowski has a class Tuesdays at 8 p.m. On Kashrus, and the rabbi has a class Wednesday nights on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and now on Hasidus. Okay, thank you. God bless.